A Dispatches reporter is filming undercover, investigating major Islamic institutions in Britain with strong links to Saudi Arabia. She found preachers in Britain's most important mosque promoting extreme Sharia law.
Someone make themselves like a man, a woman like a man. You understand this? The punishment is kill them.
And selling DVDs with a hardline message.
People can see in the public, you understand, people got their hands and feet from opposite sides chopped off, and they see them crucified.
And we showed a British school run under the supervision of the Saudi embassy, which imported books condemning other religions.
I believe these textbooks will poison the minds of anyone that reads them.
Now our investigation turned to a third major Islamic institution in Britain. This is the UK headquarters of the Muslim World League and the World Assembly of Muslim Youth. They're worldwide charities and run a 5-storey complex of offices, a mosque, and prayer rooms in the heart of London's West End. Although their headquarters are in Saudi Arabia, they say they are independent of the Saudi government. They say they give out Islamic literature promoting coexistence and moderation between cultures. So our reporter is going undercover to find out. They run weekend Quran courses, and she gets a place. The lessons are run by this imam. The charities say they give out Islamic literature. So after the lesson, our reporter asks for some. She says friends of hers are setting up a mosque and Islamic school. He says they do give out books on Islam. He says they mostly give out English translations of the Quran.
English translated Quran.
She asks where the books are coming from. He says they come from the headquarters of the 2 charities in Saudi Arabia and a third source.
Ministry of Islamic Affairs. The main sources in 3 sources.
The charities based here claim to be independent of the Saudi government. But the Saudi Ministry of Islamic Affairs is using them to send books to Britain. And this official Ministry of Islamic Affairs website says the Muslim World League operates under its supervision. The 2 charities were set up specifically to spread the Saudi version of Islam worldwide, according to many moderate Muslim observers.
They are massive organizations. They are global organizations backed by so many Saudi clerics and enormous funding. They will organize conferences, fund centers and mosques, provide literature, free literature for distribution. And of course, it's all funded, organized by these 2 groups.
Our reporter gets an appointment with the director of the London offices of the Muslim World League. She tells him friends of hers are setting up a mosque and school. And he agrees she can take some books, which are kept in a locked basement. With another undercover reporter who is posing as a friend, she goes along to pick them up. The imam unlocks the basement. The room is full of books. Our reporters are given a number of books. Nearly all of them are from Saudi Arabia. Some condemn terrorism, others are straightforward guides to Islam and don't promote extremism. But others preach the same teachings our reporter had found being spread at Regent's Park Mosque, including works by the former Grand Mufti Sheikh bin Baz, advocating violent Sharia law punishments, such as death for Muslims who believe homosexuality is permissible.
It is permitted to shed his blood and take his belongings.
The books say love, support, loyalty and friendship with disbelievers is forbidden. Muslims must do jihad until all countries are ruled by Islam.
If some of the people of the non-Islamic countries stand against Islam, they must be fought.
and they must act upon the reported words of the Prophet.
The last day will not come until the Muslims fight the Jews and kill them.
Our reporter was given a sample copy of the translated Qurans they distribute in Britain. It's brand new, published in the last 2 years, and is produced under the supervision of the Saudi Ministry of Islamic Affairs. It bears King Abdullah's own seal of approval. We showed the new translation to Sheikh Musa Admani, who studied Islam at India's top religious universities.
Whoever believes in Allah and the last day.
A number of verses in the Quran preach peace and tolerance between Muslims, Jews and Christians. But the Saudi Quran contains footnotes saying these verses are no longer true, a narrow interpretation, not followed by moderate Muslims.
These scholars from Saudi Arabia are saying that it has been abrogated, it's been cancelled, it does no longer apply, because it doesn't fit in well with the ideology of segregation.
Another footnote explicitly preaches segregation.
This indicates that a Muslim should not stay in a non-Muslim country. Now, it's interesting. He's translating the Quran. Okay. The verse does not say anything about living Muslim, non-Muslim land. Here, they're trying to use the credibility of the Quran to push their own idea in selected areas. The underlying motive here is to find a way of continuously implanting this permanent wedge between the wider British society and the younger Muslim living in Britain.
He says King Abdullah's new translation has removed some objectionable material from previous Saudi versions.
Made a bit of improvement, but it's not good enough.
The Muslim World League told us some of the books we quoted from had been donated to them 10 years ago, assessed, considered not suitable for distribution, and left in the basement. With regards to the translation of the Quran, it said,
"No translation is perfect, and not every interpretation is agreed. You have managed to find a few footnotes which you dislike, and which most readers probably do not even bother to read."
It said any allegation that it is promoting a theology of intolerance, separatism and extremism was offensive and entirely untrue. The Royal Embassy of Saudi Arabia told us that the King Fahd Academy, the Muslim World League and the Islamic Cultural Centre and Central Mosque were not part of the Saudi Arabian government or its instruments. It said,
"The Saudi Arabian government does not advocate or support the bigoted beliefs of extremists, and there is no such organisation as the Saudi Arabian religious establishment."
It said Saudi Arabia promotes tolerance and mutual understanding and is at the forefront of international campaigns to stamp out and rehabilitate extremists. The British government says Saudi Arabia is its partner in tackling extremism, but critics say it's turned a blind eye to the importation of Wahhabism for years. Dennis McShane was a Foreign Office Minister from 2002 to 2005 and became worried at the government's attitude to radical Saudi teaching.
The British establishment, in my judgment, in the sense of Whitehall, senior ministers, refused to look at the penetration of Wahhabism into schools, into mosques. The ideology of what Wahhabism promotes is deeply inimical and dangerous to British values, but at the other level, this was a huge source of revenue for British companies, British state, British people, and that stopped, I think, any robust criticism of the Saudis. We were not firm enough in saying you should not export Wahhabism.
He says the 7th of July bombings have been a wake-up call to ministers, but the government still doesn't take a strong enough line with Saudi Arabia.
Clearly, Britain is a big trading state with an important defence industry, needs a relationship with Saudi Arabia. But we have to say quite clearly, you can't export anti-Jewish, anti-democratic, anti-Western, anti-rule of law, homophobic, anti-women ideology dressed up as a religion. That is not acceptable.
The British government told us,
"We have put in place robust legislation to combat incitement to religious hatred, violence and terrorism. All individuals and organisations based in the UK are subject to this legislation, regardless of the provenance of their funding or connections to third countries, Saudi or otherwise.
The petrodollar money coming from Saudi Arabia has basically distorted the growth and development of Muslim community in Britain.
That's what I accuse them of. The distortion of Islam itself. The abuse and misuse of this great faith of mine, and not only mine, but of my children as well.
To think, as I believe our government thinks, that it makes ideological sense to play patsy with the Saudis is folly of the first order of magnitude. We will be paying for it a vast amount in the years to come.
Well, next on 4, not everyone is in agreement about some of the aspects of the Castleford project, the final stages of Kevin MacLeod and the Big Town Plan.